Hey everyone, Suey here, and I finished Demon Copperhead this past week, so I thought I would tell you a little bit about it. Actually, you probably already know about it, so I'll tell you my thoughts about it. I guess you can call it a review. I don't know. If I feel like I'm getting into spoilers, I will give a little spoiler warning. This first part, I will try to not have spoilers. Demon Copperhead, I read on my ebook. This is a book by Barbara Kingsolver, whose books I usually like. I loved Poison with Bible, but I remember trying to read Prodigal Summer and thinking it was awful. But I can't really remember why, because that was years and years and years ago. So I never really know what to expect with her books. I think I've only read those two. The Bean Trees, I remember being talked about a lot, but I don't think I ever actually read that one. And I don't think I read that nonfiction one, the animal, vegetable, mineral one I heard a lot about, but I don't think I ever read that one. I based my thoughts about her off of those two books, The Prodigal Summer and The Poison with Bible. So I didn't really know what to expect, except for the fact that everyone pretty much had this on their favorites of the year book last year, and it won a bunch of awards, including Pulitzer Prize. There was a couple other books maybe that I heard everyone talking about, but this was up there with one of the titles I heard the most about. Except for the fact I never really heard what it was about. I do tend to stay away from learning too much about a book before I read it anyway, so maybe I didn't really seek out the information about what it was about. You understand that it was sort of a nod to David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, which is a book I read, but I don't really remember a whole lot about it. I remember enjoying it. I was seeing some people saying, did they need to read one in order to understand the other? No. It's just Barbara Kingsolver's sort of nod to that theme in a book, which is poverty and societies looking down on people with poverty and how the cycle just goes and goes and goes and goes. This is a lot about that cycle. The cycle is terrible. So you don't have to know anything about David Copperfield at all. It's just her nod to that sort of theme, I think. That's my take on it anyway. So anyway, Demon Copperhead is about our boy, Demon Copperhead. It is a nickname. His real name is Damon Fields. And he is born to like a teenage mother who is addicted to all kinds of drugs. Mostly, I don't know what all she was have going on in her life. But they pretty much are given a break by the family in the neighborhood that lets them live in their trailer. And he is sort of raised by this family. There's a decent family, and they are raising their grandkid too. His name is Maggot. That's his nickname. So they are like best buds, and he talks about kind of great times when they were younger, and things, felt great at first when he was younger, but then his mom ends up hanging out with this awful dude, the mean stepfather, and things go terrible from there. And that starts happening when he is about 10 years old. So this is him telling his story from about the time he was 10 until I think it ends when he's around in his early 20s or so. And just all this crazy stuff that happened during his teenage years. I find it interesting that it's an adult book, but it's all told from the point of view of a teenage character. Because we always say that if it's told from an adult's point of view looking back on their life, then it's not a YA book, which I find interesting. I don't know who made up that rule. I don't understand exactly why we say that, because even though it was an older demon looking back on his life, it was very much told in the eyes of a kid, which is my favorite thing about this book, actually, is the voice of it. We are in Demon Copperhead's point of view and life like no other book I've read lately. It is so immersing. You get so immersed in his life because of the storytelling. and the writing and the way she just dumps you right into that life and you live it right along with him. And it is intense and it is exhausting and heartbreaking. So, and it's set in the Appalachian area in West Virginia. I forget which Virginia. Down south in the Appalachian Mountains. And afterwards, I actually had to look it up because I wanted to see if all these places were real, and they were. They're all there on the map. And now I want to go visit there as if Demon Copperhead was a real live person. I want to go visit all the places he talked about. Yeah, so crazy. We really get a feel for that area and the poverty in the area, the cycle of drug abuse, the cycle of domestic abuse, and people just really, really, really never getting a break from these crazy lives that they live. And so that's basically what this book is about. And I was really, really nervous about the ending of it. And I guess if you don't want to know the ending or my feelings about the ending, then here's your spoiler alert. And I will talk more specifics after this. So here's a little spoiler alert. I will talk freely after this. If you don't want to know, you can stop it right now. Okay? Yeah, I was really, really nervous about the ending. But it does have a nice, hopeful ending. I feel like we get the feeling that Demon has finally maybe broken the cycle. Maybe. I am not convinced everything is okay yet. I did want a little bit more, like one more chapter. It ended just a teeny bit too soon. Oh, I hate that when you're totally anticipating a scene and you want them to get there and have this confirmation of what you think is happening actually happen, and then it's just left up to your imagination. So one more chapter would have been great. But so that's my thoughts on the ending, but at least it didn't end with a dead demon, which is what I thought was going to happen, basically. The thing that makes me so angry, and the thing that I don't get, and the thing that I think she's trying to point out, is that people get into this rut of life, which is basically taking drugs. Prescription drugs is what this is about. Being addicted to prescription drugs. And that's what kills his mom. And then he's so angry at her. And yet he turns around and does the very exact same thing. I was just like, what? Are you not learning anything? But I think that's the whole point, I guess, that these people are dealing with. So yeah, it's just so much part of their life or something. I was so mad at him for just turning around and doing the exact same thing that his mom did. So what were you thinking? Oh, and there's so many people who are trying to help and they just don't take the help. So frustrating. So yeah, but I think, like I said, I think that's the whole point of the novel, to feel that frustration. But man, I loved that kid, and I wanted so much for him to break the cycle and get out of it. And finally, I think hopefully he did, maybe. Finally gotten with a girl that maybe can be strong enough to help him, I guess. Now, the other thing that I find interesting about this book is, if you watched my review of Fourth Wing, you see that I complain about all the F-bombs in that book, which felt out of place to me and jarring because it didn't fit the story. Well, I bet you this book has every bit as many F-bombs as that one did, maybe more. But did it bother me in this book? No, because it felt like it was part of the story. It was how these people talked. It was to show kind of the lowness of their life, I guess, is without a better word to say. I don't know, that might be a really offensive thing to say, but it shows the characterization of Demon and his friends and his family and the people that he had to deal with. That's how they talked. And it made sense for this story. So I wasn't that bothered. It is a lot for anybody who is concerned about that kind of thing. there's a lot of language, and so be warned if that's something for you. But this one didn't bother me. Whereas in like The Fourth Wing, it was so jarring. So I don't know. Take that for what you will. Just an interesting thing I observed in myself and my own reading. I totally loved being immersed in this particular culture. I think there's a lot of good about this area and this culture. They call themselves rednecks and hillbillies and hicks and all the things. And they talk about all those different stereotypes. Which some of them they own up to and some of them they really hate. But for what it's worth, I feel like this culture in this part of the country is beautiful and a beautiful culture. And I just wish so bad that they didn't have to deal with this cycle of drug abuse and domestic abuse and all those things. So yeah, it's quite eye-opening. But I love the style of writing. I love the being in Demon's Head, and I can see why everybody was raving about this book. So I'm happy to have finally read it and to add it to my own list of awesome books. Let me know if you read this one and what you thought of it, if it was on your list last year or if it's still coming up on your TBR, or if you have no desire to read it at all. I would love to know your thoughts. Until next time, be reading. Bye.